All right, let's jump right in. Today we're looking at St. Paul American School Clark, Grade 9 General English, specifically Unit 3, Lesson 3. Identify author's perspective and purpose, and distinguish between primary and secondary sources. Think of this explainer as basically building your ultimate creator's toolkit for reading and writing. We're going to give you the keys to unlock exactly how a text works, and then show you how to use those exact same tools to build a masterpiece of your own. Here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, uncovering the author's purpose. 2, primary and secondary sources. And 3, crafting your short story.
Starting off with Section 1, uncovering the author's purpose. Now, before you can be a truly great writer, you have to be a great reader, right? And that means learning to pinpoint exactly why an author created a specific piece of text in the first place. Enter the PIE acronym, PIE. It brilliantly maps out the 3 main reasons authors write: to persuade, inform, or entertain. An author persuading you is throwing their opinions out there, trying to convince you of a specific viewpoint. An author informing you? They're sticking straight to the facts, real information, or step-by-step procedures. And an author entertaining you is relying on fiction, crafting a story primarily just for you to enjoy. PIE is an incredibly powerful, easy-to-remember tool. Keep it in your back pocket.
So how does this actually look in the wild? Well, an informational text simply delivers the facts. It might use diagrams, cutaways, photographs, and super clear definitions. A persuasive text, on the other hand, is actively trying to sway your opinion. The author is going to share exactly how they feel about the subject and might even cherry-pick specific statistics just to prove their point.
Now, here's a common stumbling block. A lot of people think we just have to blindly guess an author's purpose. Like we read a passage and then just take a wild stab in the dark. But is that true?
Absolutely not. You should literally never just guess. You're basically a detective here. You should always be hunting for keywords and structural clues to uncover the author's true intent. If you see a ton of strong opinion words and carefully selected statistics, they're definitely trying to persuade you. But if you're seeing step-by-step procedures and objective definitions, they're just informing you. Trust me, the text always leaves a trail of clues.
Okay, let's put that to the test with a quick check. Imagine you're reading a text and the author gives you the exact procedural steps. First get the bread, then use a knife to spread the ingredients to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. What is their purpose? If you guessed to inform, you absolutely nailed it, because the author is giving you procedural steps and actual, true information on how to do something. Their goal is entirely informational. No guessing required.
Moving right along to Section 2, distinguishing between primary and secondary sources. Now we need to know exactly what kind of materials authors are actually using. According to the Library of Congress, primary sources give you that powerful first-hand raw material. We're talking original documents and objects created at the exact time under study. Secondary sources, on the flip side, are interpretations built after the fact. They're accounts created by someone who did not have first-hand experience with the event. Time for another misconception check. When we think of history, we naturally think of history books, right? So, are all history books primary sources just because they talk about the past?
Actually, no. History books are almost always secondary sources. Why? Because the author is interpreting events they didn't personally live through. Look, unless the history book is a published diary from someone who was literally standing there when the event happened, it's a secondary source interpreting those primary materials. Make sense?
All right, Section 3, crafting your short story.
This is where you transition from being the reader to becoming the creator. We're going to use a framework from high school English instructor Michael Pollock to craft your own compelling narrative. First rule, think deeply about your title. It's your first chance to establish your purpose. Take Shirley Jackson's famous story, The Lottery. Usually the word lottery is awesome, right? Winning cash, getting a prize. But Jackson uses it for a very dark, unsettling story where you definitely do not want your name chosen. Her title is deliberately designed to completely shock the reader's expectations.
Next up, the golden rule of writing. Good stories must show, not tell. But here's the catch. You have to balance your descriptive details without overwhelming the reader. Edgar Allan Poe actually believed a short story should be readable in a single sitting, so the outside world doesn't interfere. If you add way too many details, it just feels like a boring list of things happening. Keep it purposeful and keep the pacing tight to hold their interest. Let's look at a specific trick of the trade: irony. Starting with situational irony in Poe's The Cask of Amontillado. Situational irony is when the outcome is the exact opposite of what you'd expect. Setting a story during the carnival season, a time of joyous celebration, while a dark, calculated murder is taking place, that is a perfect example. The setting completely contradicts the action.
Then there's verbal irony. This is when a character says or means the opposite of the literal meaning. In that exact same story, the victim's name is Fortunato. His very name implies he's fortunate or that good things are going to come his way. But the reality? Oh, he is doomed. Giving him that name is a brilliant use of verbal irony that adds a whole new layer to the story.
Now, a huge challenge in reading and writing is creating characters people can actually relate to. Take Ray Bradbury's classic sci-fi story All Summer in a Day. There's a young girl named Margot who gets locked in a closet on Venus and entirely misses the sun. Do you have to actually be locked in a closet on Venus to relate to her?
Of course not. The real trick is moving from the literal events to the metaphorical feelings. You've probably never been to Venus, sure, but have you ever missed out on something super important? Have you ever felt totally left out by your peers? By tapping into those universal, human emotions, you can connect your reader to even the most alien of settings. And finally, when structuring your story, you need a tight framework. Use the classic Freytag pyramid to build suspense. It goes like this. Start with your exposition to set the scene. Build up the conflict through the rising action. Hit the absolute peak of tension at the climax. Follow the fallout in the falling action. And finally, wrap it up with a satisfying resolution or denouement. This arc is literally the backbone of almost every great story ever told.
All right, let's bring it all home with a final lesson recap.
Your creator's toolkit is packed and ready. Today, we successfully covered how to use the PIE method to spot exactly what an author's purpose is. We nailed down the crucial difference between primary first-hand sources and secondary interpretations. And most importantly, we explored the golden rules for building an incredible short story. Using purposeful titles, showing instead of telling, deploying irony, and structuring it all on a classic narrative arc.
So, with all these incredible analytical and creative tools now completely at your disposal, the only question left to ask yourself is, what kind of story are you going to create? I can't wait to see what you come up with. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and happy writing.